All right, good morning, everybody. It is the first day of December. And to celebrate that, we are having a committee of the whole on budget, and then we're having a council meeting. So welcome to all those who are watching from all over the globe, and to our councillors and staff who are with us here. I want to, and of course, our friends in the media as well, who may be paying attention. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. We're going to do the budget committee meeting first of all, and when we finish budget, we will switch into our regional council agenda. Just a note, I want to congratulate Paul Russell, who was chosen to the exalted position of Chair of Audit and Finance. And after this meeting, the future budget meetings will be chaired by Paul. That's been our custom about as long as Wei and I have been on council, that we've started this long process, and we allowed for the Chair of Audit and Finance to chair the budget meetings. And I know that Paul will continue in the really strong tradition of Councillor Karsten, who was it for a long time, Councillor Walker, Councillor Nicol all took turns. So Paul, thank you for being the chair, and look forward to having you take over the next meeting. All right, colleagues, let's see who's with us. From Fall River, Waverley Fall River, Muscatawbet, Councillor Daigle Gammon, are you there?
Mr. Mayor, fully present and happily in this nice rainy day in Fall River. It's beautiful.
Awesome. Good morning, Councillor Hensby.
President of Cal 4, looking forward to a long day of constructive conversation.
All right, do we have anybody from the Eastern Passage area? Councillor Kent.
Well, you have someone as well from District 3, the entirety of Dartmouth South and Eastern Passage. Yes, I am present.
Councillor Thank you. Councillor Purdy, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Happy December 1st.
Indeed. Councillor Austin.
I'm here and accounted for, Mr. Mayor.
Awesome. Councillor Mancini, did you make it in?
Mr. Mayor, I'm here. Good morning, everyone. I'm having some difficulties for the visual, but I can hear everybody okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ace.
So many jokes you could make there, Councillor Mancini. Councillor Mason here, District 7. Happy to be here. Could I take a moment, Mr. Mayor? I know we're not doing announcements, but it's a special day in municipalities in Nova Scotia because Her Worship Mayor Amanda McDougall of Cape Breton Regional Municipality had her baby boy Emmett yesterday, and amazingly was still responding to messages this morning showing that dedication of the Jacinda Ardern of Nova Scotia. And I hope all of council will join me in congratulating Amanda and her family on their new member.
Indeed.
Woohoo!
Yay!
Is it registered to vote yet?
Congratulations to Her Worship and Little Worship. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Smith here, District 8, Halifax, Plans North, ready to meet.
Awesome. Councillor Cleary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Although you can see the old Armdale station behind me, I'm actually not in District 9 at the moment. I'm down at City Hall. I walked down here in the drizzle this morning to sign some Christmas cards and do some other things. Not very many people in City Hall, although I see you're at your office down there. So please, everyone stay safe. Stay home if you can. Wear a mask, wash your hands, do all the things Dr. Strang's telling you to do, because we need to get the second wave under control.
Thank you. Councillor Morse.
Present and also representing District 10 from City Hall this morning.
Awesome. Councillor Cuttle. Councillor Cuttle.
The mute. There we go. Hello, everyone. Representing District 11, Spryfield, Sambro Loop, Prospect Road, and coming to you from City Hall. Haven't actually seen anyone else in the building this morning, so it's good to know you're in here somewhere, Sean and Catherine. We'll see you later.
Councillor, thank you. Councillor Stoddard.
Good morning, everyone. Coming to you live from Timberley. Representing Timberley, Lakeside, Beachville, Clayton Park West, and Wedgwood. Thank you.
Awesome. Councillor Lovelace.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, colleagues. I am joining you from District 13, Hannah's Plain, St. Margaret's, with the gorgeous Peggy's Cove behind me.
Indeed. Councillor Blackburn.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Unfortunately, I just have the Beaverbank bunker in back of me, but I will not rest until I find out who the mouse is. Who was the mouse?
Bedford mouse.
My cousin. My cousin was.
They're from
her
the
name's-
library.
The mouse in the Christmas video was the mouse from the Bedford Library, and it's a dues-paying member of ACTRA, SAG, and a bunch of other acting unions. Councillor
I would
Russell.
expect nothing less.
Indeed. Councillor Russell.
Good morning from Lower Sackville. We're having a wonderful wet morning in Lower Sackville, and seemed to be a good morning for the start to school for a lot of people. I dropped in to watch the traffic around a few schools this morning, and it looked under control for a lot of it, but we'll keep an eye on it. So have a great day.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Outhet.
Good morning from Bedford Wentworth, where even the mice are high class and talented, I tell you. So. And Patty, watch out for a guy running around in his nightshirt there, and when you're in City Hall today. But listen, happy to be here. Looking forward to a good day, and great to see all these smiling faces.
Awesome. Thank you. Our CAO is with us as well. Jacques, are you with us? You can show us you're here, ready for duty.
Ready and accounted for, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. John, you good?
Just lagging a bit there, Mayor. Yes. Morning all.
Good morning, everybody. And our clerk, Ian, is with us, April, Phoebe, and everybody else who supports the work. Just before we get going on our budget meeting, I wanted to mention something now this morning that I think bears mentioning, and that is a special thank you to our staff at City Hall, who we're all very proud of. But you know, I represent our city on a number of committees, whether it's the regular chamber labor call that happens with Patrick Sullivan, the partnership, the bids, CAO councils of the Halifax Partnership, and a number of other sort of ad hoc meetings I join. And one of the things that brings me great joy is to talk about and to hear about from them the work that our staff have done to react to COVID. We're all aware of the great work that Tanya Davis and her whole crew did with traffic over the summer. Recently, Victoria Horn and Brad Anguish came up with the idea on the 15 minutes of free parking, which is designed to help small, medium-sized businesses for pickups, for deliveries, and things like that. That was an idea that came to us from staff. Denise Schofield, you know, Tony Mancini and I did the toward the drive-through COVID testing site that's going to be opening at the Dartmouth General, and they asked about whether there was any facilities we could work, and Tony jumped on it, and very quickly Denise Schofield, working with our public health officials, set up some of our facilities to assist in the testing. And our special events crew, who have done everything they possibly can to make sure that Christmas still comes in this rather gloomy year that we've had, doing videos, this beautiful tree out here. And I don't know if any of you have seen the light show that is happening on the side of City Hall every 15 minutes between 4:30 and 9 o'clock every day except December the 6th, which is the commemoration of the Halifax explosion. But these are all initiatives that our staff have come up with. I think they all are making COVID a little bit easier. So I just wanted to thank the staff that we have. And these are only 4 examples of some of the great work that's happening, but I'm very proud of that. So thank you to the hardworking, creative, innovative, flexible staff that we have at City Hall.
Here, here.
Indeed. All right. Thank you, folks. We're going to move ahead with the budget committee. There's no minutes to approve. Nobody has signed up for participation. We're going to move to the 2021-2025 strategic priority framework and multi-year strategic planning and budget. And we started this before, and I'm going to get, I think it's going to be our CAO that's going to lead us off, and then there'll be a presentation by some others. But Jacques, did you just want to sort of identify where we are in the process and your expectations for today?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, everyone. Good morning, Council. I have with me today Jane Fraser, our CFO, and Wendy Lyons. I assume you've read the report and you saw the recommendation there. This is all about flexibility, as the mayor has pointed out. We're in a process now, in the budget process, and I appreciate, especially for the new councillors, it's a lot to absorb in a short time frame. We're targeting, of course, is to get to sometime in late March, early April with the budget. Because the budget actually is an important document that allows us to actually spend money in the next fiscal year. So we have to have a budget on or about April 1. But again, we're going to be very flexible here in terms of timing, and council will need to take the time it needs to actually achieve its budget and to land the budget at that time. So on that, I'm going to ask Jane to take over the presentation and give you a little more context in terms of what our intentions are today and what our plan is going forward. As you recall, on November 10th, we had been to you with a draft strategic priorities framework, priority outcomes. We've taken that feedback and incorporated that into the new document. And now we're here today to get further guidance from you. So Jane, over to you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your kind words regarding staff. I'm certainly proud and privileged to lead such an incredibly strong team here at HRM. Thank you very much.
So just before Jane, if I could, in line with that, I mentioned at budget last week, your folks and how they're dealing with COVID, Jane and Renee Towns in particular and her team, and reacting with the commercial community and being as flexible as we can possibly be to assist small businesses to get through this as well. So thank you to your team on that. Go ahead, Jane.
Thank you, very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the committee, Jane Fraser, Director of Finance, Asset Management, ICT. So before Wendy starts the presentation, I just thought I'd go through a bit of what the process is that we're doing here today, because it is new for a number of you. So what we've done is we've come back with the strategic priorities framework for you. So this is the framework that contains the 4 strategic priorities that we discussed back in November, as well as some of the outcomes. So we will be going through this, and at the end of each of the strategic priorities, Wendy will stop and we'll have a conversation, debate about the items that we have included in there, if there's areas that you want to strengthen, and then we'll move on to the next priority outcome. What we'll do after we've had the conversation is staff have been working in outcome teams to flesh out some of the initiatives that will be carried out over the next 4 years. So when we come back in January, on January the 12th, what you'll see is the full plan, strategic priorities plan for the 4 years with the initiatives that the business units are suggesting that they do in order to advance the initiatives and to achieve priorities. This then becomes the basis for the business unit's business plans and in the form of the budget. So this is a very iterative process. What this does is set up the broad parameters, a broad framework. We then go back, flesh it out with a lot more detail. That comes on January the 12th. And then through the business unit presentations, they'll go through a lot more detail of the initiatives. And then the budget is a mechanism that we use to obviously to fund the initiatives to make progress. So when we're dealing with the budget, we look obviously at tax competitiveness. We want to look at fiscal capacity and sustainability. So as I said, today is simply the framework where we're making sure that we're on the right track. We've taken some of the feedback that we heard in November, put that in there. I believe Wendy has it highlighted in red in the deck, and certainly as she walks through the process, we'll be showing the areas that we believe you've indicated that you'd like to focus on over the next 4 years. So thank you, and if there's any questions on the process, I'd be happy to take it. Otherwise, Wendy can kick us off.
Okay, thank you. Wendy Lyons, Manager of Corporate Planning. If we could open the presentation. Okay, next slide. Okay, there's 4 recommendations before you today stemming from the report. They are to approve Halifax Regional Municipalities 2021-2025 Strategic Planning Framework, approve the development of the 2021-2025 Strategic Priorities Plan and 2021-2025 Administrative Priority Plans and associated annual reporting process, approve the discontinuation of the budget allocator tool in favor of the online business planning and budget survey, and approve the 2021-22 Committee of the Whole Planning and Budget meeting schedule. Okay, next slide, please. And next slide. Okay, this year a comprehensive process was undertaken with the objectives of simplifying the message of the strategic priorities to the public, aligning strategic priorities with core strategy, elimination of duplication and incorporation of key strategic themes and considerations, the application of appropriate measurement for the outcomes, and delineation of strategic and administrative outcomes, delineation of the mandates as defined by, for the administrative priorities as defined by processes, systems, policies, procedures, and finances required to enable service delivery and fulfillment of Council's strategic mandate. Next slide, please. So just by way of a refresh to what you heard on November the 10th, you'll see before you the 2017-2021 Council priority areas and the proposed 2021-2025 Council priority areas. The number of strategic priority areas has been reduced from 6 to 4. This is because there's been a deliberate focus on alignment with the strategic undertakings and incorporation of emerging themes. There's also been an effort to delineate strategic and administrative priorities. This delineation, of course, does not mean that Regional Council cannot inform these outcomes or the progress toward the administrative outcomes will not be reported. This will continue to be sustained. The delineation provides for better clarity on what is strategic from Council's perspective and what is operational and what the administration needs to do to support Council's strategic mandate. So as you can see, by way of refresh, economic development has become prosperous economy. Economic development is just one of the levers of the economy. A prosperous economy is intended to represent an economy that everyone benefits from. Transportation has been changed to integrated mobility, a key strategy that speaks to the type of transportation system that HRM wants to create. Healthy livable communities has been integrated with social development so that the important social policy work is integrated to improving social outcomes for all. This priority area is now called communities. The former priority areas of healthy, safe communities and social development were both about improving the quality of life and societal outcomes for all residents of HRM. This work is now merged together so that HRM's social policy team can focus on this effort. You will note that environment is now a new council priority area. It used to be a strategic priority outcome under healthy livable communities, and this is to represent the approval of Halifax 2050 and the importance that impact this plan will have on the other strategic priority areas. You will note that the former service delivery council priority area has now been merged with the administrative priority area of service excellence, and the former council priority area of governance and engagement is now merged to form responsible administration. This has been done to eliminate duplication, centralize core corporate processes, delineate the strategic mandate, and really simplify the messaging around our strategic plan. Next slide, please. Okay, so at our November 10th session, we heard from Regional Council some key issues and concerns, and we'd like to provide you some context and some feedback to what we heard. So with respect to prosperous economy and the concern about economic recovery, we heard from many of you that economic recovery is an important issue, one which requires a focused approach. It's not been proposed as a strategic outcome. Instead, the COVID-19 Economic Response and Recovery Plan has been concluded as a strategic initiative under the Economic Growth Strategic Priority Outcome Area. Similar to the Economic Growth Plan, the COVID Economic Response and Recovery Plan includes several key actions that will be brought to Council regularly for updates by the CAO and the Halifax Partnership. Specific key performance indicators are being developed with the partnership for the overall economic growth plan. These KPIs are likely to be formulated under the COVID plan as well. This initiative is being led out of the CAO's office. It should also be noted that economic recovery is also being managed as a strategic risk to the organization under HRM's Enterprise Risk Management Program. This means that a risk plan is being developed as part of this year's business planning and budget process, and mitigating initiatives like the Financial Fiscal Sustainability Strategy will be integrated into business plans. With respect to affordable housing, like economic recovery, it's a key concern of this regional council. Affordable housing has not been recommended as a strategic priority outcome at this time, given jurisdictional and financial limitations. The provision of housing, however, is of paramount importance to the success of this municipality, as it is an economic driver and a lever for attracting talent and business. As an urban, suburban, and rural municipality, HRM is faced with challenges of geography, supply, and servicing. Success in the provision of housing involves the provision of adequate supply to meet demand, ensuring that this supply is available in locations that will not create cost, environmental barriers to its provision. The regional plan will spell out where housing will be permitted, while local area plans will speak to the form. As the municipality is a regulator of supply, HRM's role is to ensure that there is no policy barriers to the provision of supply. Policy should include opportunities for market, mixed market, below market, and deep affordability housing. It should also be mentioned that affordable housing has also been identified as a strategic risk to the municipality, and a risk plan is being developed again as part of this business planning and budget cycle, with mitigating initiatives to be integrated. We heard that building accessible communities, which does fall under the strategic priority outcome of holistic planning, that this notion of inclusiveness under the holistic planning is meant to extend to the needs of all communities, including vulnerable and marginalized people. The Nova Scotia Accessibilities Act and subsequent Access by Design 2030 strategy will from the province will mandate compliance to standards for the built environment. These standards are anticipated by the province in 2022. HRM's Accessibility Committee is working on the accessibility strategy to achieve compliance by 2030. The accessibility strategy is a strategic initiative under the community's priority area. Meeting Nova Scotia Accessibility Act requirements is identified as a strategic risk to the organization with an active risk plan. We also heard from the perspective of planning for the future in a post-pandemic world that a pandemic has created a level of disruption in our municipality that may lead us to question whether we're planning or the way we undertake planning is an old paradigm. In 2021-22, corporate planning and planning and development hope to undertake a 20-year community vision engagement process to understand the needs and priorities of our diverse communities. This extensive community engagement will both inform the strategic plan, so our priorities, and the regional plan, where and how we grow. It will also impact service plans, the way we deliver services. There are also multiple strategies approved and in development that are looking to the future. The digital strategy from our ICT department is focused on the notion of creating a smart city. Halifax 2050 and its electrification and energy mandates have also far-reaching implications to the way we develop our future communities. The introduction of the concept of holistic planning is also intended to extend consideration of all development to triple bottom line thinking, so the economic, social, and environmental implications. Finally, urban and rural growth and development. Regional Council shared with us that they want to see, don't want to see any focus being taken off urban and rural growth and development, as it's been now merged with holistic planning and economic growth. Urban and rural growth will continue to be reported as key performance indicators under these new priority outcomes and supported by numerous strategies. The economic strategy, the economic recovery strategy, the Cogswell redevelopment, the center plan, streetscape initiatives, rural planning program implementation. So I'm going to pause here. I think it's prudent that we pause at each of these revised council priority areas to discuss, next slide. To discuss some of the feedback that you gave us and some of the changes that we've incorporated here in the deck. So we heard from Council Cuddle that the goal statement for prosperous economy should include the concept of welcoming to denote our attractiveness as a place to visit, to do visit, and to visit. It's here for your consideration. We've included it in the aspirational goal statement. So it is now a prosperous, welcoming, and growing economy, positions Halifax as a business and tourism destination of choice with economic opportunities for all. We also heard that the notion of inclusion related to holistic planning did not go far enough, and that we wanted to strengthen that statement. And we heard for a number of recommendations. So there's a number of there for your consideration. We heard supported, strengthened, and empowered as options, again, for your consideration. So I will pause here for any questions, comments, feedback.
Thank you, Wendy. Is there any comments from council? Does somebody want to take that up?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hensby?
In regards to the integrated mobility plan and stuff like that, they talk about having better connectivity for communities. Are we going to be looking at possibly changing our tax structure to reflect that? I've been talking about a regional transportation tax we have from Hubbard's to Oyster Pond and up to the beyond the airport area. We have a tax structure in place. I think we need to modify that in regards to bring the elements of integrated mobility to the communities. And I think that's what we need to look at that as a mechanism to make it happen. So I want to know, is this the approach we needed to do that?
Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, I can take that question. Thank you for the question, Councillor. So as part of our moving forward with four-year planning and fiscal sustainability, we will be coming in next on December 15th with a fiscal sustainability strategy that really talks about some of the underlining principles of where taxation should be used and resources, as well as understanding what initiatives that we want to move forward with. So I wouldn't say it would be part of this. I understand that there is a report also in Report Center, but it really is looking at the whole picture because what you're talking about is taxation policy and fair taxation and some of the underlying theories that will be bringing forward through fiscal sustainability as well as the fiscal framework. So I hope that's answered your question.
Okay, I'm not getting anything in the chat line. Are people trying to speak and I'm not?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's Councillor Lovelace.
Yeah, so just before we get going, why is that not showing up in my chat? I wonder.
You could be showing a different chat.
It's not in mine either, so yeah.
Corey's here to help us out. Let's just take a sec here, so.
Just for a moment. Okay, so now let's go back to the meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I just sent a text. Did you see that?
I'm getting them on I'm getting them on a separate computer. I'm not getting them on the chat line, which is going to be. Yeah, I'm just going to let Corey have a look at this.
Mine appeared, so.
Is everybody else seeing the chats?
I know.
Yes.
I only
it is
see what
showing
I
up
submit.
Yes, I only see what I submit as well.
I'm seeing comments from Councillor Cuddle, Lovelace, Mason, Smith, and Hensby.
I can see it on my phone, but not on my computer.
Yeah. So Phoebe tells me the chat function is broken. Seems to be a Teams issue and the computer phones are working.
Mine is populating now. It's coming slow, but it's populating.
Click on it here until we fix it to see the chat. So you'll see it here. You just have to click back and forth between it.
Show it to me again, because I don't.
Click up here.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it now on mine. It just started.
Okay, let me see.
No. Click there. Right in business.
That's yesterday.
I just saw Ian's testing there, Ian, so it's working.
So far I can only see in the chat line, Patty and Cuddle and Pam Lovelace as asking to speak. That's it.
What is this?
It's on your tablet.
If I can get it on the tablet, that'll work for me, even if it's not on there. Okay, so who's on
So
the
Mayor Savage, this is Ian McLean here. Just a possible suggestion is we could go and take a quick break, just look at some of the technical issues and then jump back online to see if we can get the chat working, if that's an option.
Okay, all right. So let's take a 5-minute break. Will that be enough, Ian?
We will endeavor to make it.
5 minutes, guys.
Do you want us to log off?
It's always a great idea to restart your computer, just like I always have to tell my parents. Right? I'm going to restart my computer.
Okay.
You could have left without the parent comment there, Smarty Pants. But
I wanted to see if I could provoke a response. Hi, Mom.
Okay, it's working for me now. How many folks are on the line?
Mayor, if it fails again, I suggest we use the clerk's office just to let you know who's next in the chat meeting.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, April here. We're missing quite a few members of council. I think a lot of folks are perhaps rebooting their computers right now.
Sorry about this.
That's all right. Happens. I'm in now. I think I'm good.
So since Councillor Mason suggested to his parents that they restart the computer and fix everything, and that seems to have fixed everything here, does that mean we are all Councillor Mason's parents?
Thanks, Dad.
I'm taking no responsibility.
All right, I think we're back in business.
Okay, who is that?
That was Lisa.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, April here. We are still missing a number of members of council as well as the clerk, the deputy at this time.
Okay, let's just wait a sec. The clerk was just up here, making sure that I was working.
Mike, just while we're waiting, the light show at City Hall's been very popular. I'm having great feedback on it from all over HRM, but I'm wondering, do you know if they're planning to make a video of it for those who can't make it downtown?
I think they are, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
Excuse me, Councillor Daigle Gammon here. Are we supposed to be able to see the full chat now?
Yeah.
I do not.
You don't get the chat, no?
No.
What does it show, Kathy? Does it show anything?
Councillor Cuddle and Councillor Lovelace as the only two in the chat.
And you scroll down on the side?
Yes. Nothing there, sir.
Dave Gammon, did you restart your computer just now?
I did, yes.
Still having this problem. Okay.
Okay.
Corey's going to reach out to you.
I think that, Kathy, have you tried to, as long as I can see you, we can at least proceed, as long as I can see if you have a question. Can you just submit something on the chat so we'll make sure we're seeing you at least?
So I just comment in the chat there.
Yeah, so I can see, as long as I can see you, I can call on you. And then I can see Trish as well.
Good.
And Corey will reach out to try to assist people as necessary.
So, Mr. Mayor, the only thing we might not be able to do then is if the wording of motions is put in the chat, or if other information is going to get out to councillors quickly through the meeting, we would have to use email instead of the chat.
Right on. The main purpose of chat is so we can, if you want to speak, we can see you, and then there's other issues we'll have to work around. I think that's quite correct.
Is chat working now?
It's working for me.
Okay, it's not working for me, but that's okay.
So there's another thing folks could try. If you go up to your little chat head up there on the top right, where you can see the click on that next to Halifax Regional Municipality and the Windows controls. If you scroll down a bit, you can see check for updates. It's third from the bottom in that drop-down menu. And you can sometimes force an update, and then you need to restart. Sorry.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know what this screen is. I've never seen this before.
If I could, this is Corey, if everyone can hear me. If you're still having these issues, if you could, similar to Councillor Mason mentioned, click on your initials in the top right-hand corner. And you should be able to hit log out at the bottom or sign out. That would sign you out of Microsoft Teams. It'll close, reopen, and then you could sign back in. That seems to have been fixing it for most users up to now. So click on your initials, hit sign out, and then you can sign back in.
So Corey, are you recommending everybody do that, that this isn't working for them?
Yes, if they're still having that issue, I would recommend that now.
Excuse me, Corey, that fix worked for me. Thank you very much.
Great. How many folks are we missing, April?
Mr. Mayor, we're missing Councillor Austin, Jane Fraser, Councillor Morse, and Councillor Stoddard.
Jane had to reboot or restart.
Like Corey's almost as good as you, Wade.
It looks like Trish is back. It says it worked.
I was reminded by a member of the media who was concerned we may have forgotten the audio is live, but we all know that, right?
Yeah.
Apologize to your parents then.
Councillor Mason, would you like to share some of your feelings at this point in time while we have some downtime?
My mom knows I love her. I don't need to apologize. Where did I get my sense of humor from?
Kathy's, looks like Kathy's back in. So we'll be good to go, do you think, April?
We could have a discussion about the media, Tony and Wei. What do you think?
Sure, Deputy Mayor, you start.
That sounds like fun.
Who's your favorite? Who do you dislike? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
All right, folks, let's bring it back. Who's missing from the call, April?
Hi, Mr. Mayor. We're missing councillors Austin, Cuddle, Morse.
Oh, wow.
Just those three at this time.
And is Jane, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Yeah, Councilor Cuddle too, I think. Corey's just gone upstairs to check with a couple of the councilors who are here. We'll give it a couple of minutes and then we're going to begin and with what we have, with those on the list that want to speak. April, what's the update?
Mayor Savage, we are still missing Councillor Austin, Councillor Cuddle, and Councillor Morse. We are working to try to get them online right now.
Okay.
Yay.
The Councilor Cuddle, is it?
I'm back.
welcome back.
Okay, I got it. I got it back.
Okay, April, how are we doing?
Hi, Mr. Mayor. We're just missing Councillor Austin at this time,
Okay.
and ICT is working with him.
I think we're going to proceed then.
Very good. We'll send you live.
All right, folks, we're discussing our strategic budget priority framework, multi-year strategic planning. And Wendy Lyons had just stopped for some feedback on priority areas. Councillor Cuttle, followed by Councillor Lovelace and Councillor Mason at this point. Councillor Cuttle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, anyway, this was great. I think it's, you know, a lot of what was said the other day got inputted into this document, and it's really wonderful to see. And I like how the strategic priority outcomes were divided between the what and the how, because, you know, really the kind of governance and engagement and service delivery affect all of those priority areas around economy and mobility and communities and environment. Great to see affordable housing on there. I don't know what the risk assessment is on that, but I do think that as a regional municipality, one of our biggest risks is not having housing for our residents. So I hope that that's included in kind of the risk analysis. And the other piece was around the planning for the future and the urban and rural growth and development. And I'm just wondering, with the urban and rural growth and development, if there was some way to kind of be a little bit more specific around that in terms of having strategic regional planning. That is, we're not just growing and developing for the sake of growing and developing, but we're doing it in a way that is strategic and specific to connecting all of those outcomes. Because really, at the end of the day, it's, you know, planning and development affects the economy, affects the mobility, affects communities, and affects the environment. So, you know, somehow adding in the strategic portion there, I think, and having it, making sure that it's regional as well, you know, specifying that in there, that we need to really look at the regional municipality as a whole and be a lot more thoughtful and strategic in how things happen. The other comment I had was on the proposed council priorities for prosperous under the holistic planning. You know, we have improved affordability, inclusion, and business competitiveness. I feel those words there, proposed word change, supported, strengthened, and empowered. I believe when I mentioned those prior, it was in relation to communities, and in specific how we work with communities as partners and as stakeholder groups and as community organizations to help us realize our long-term goals and our community aspirations. Seeing communities as, you know, not just involved in their communities, you know, seeing residents not just involved in their communities, but seeing communities playing an active role in shaping their futures. So I think that's where those words were meant to go. But under prosperous communities, again, I think it would be wonderful to see something in here about kind of grassroots economy, you know, how we really support, you know, small businesses. You know, we talk on the headline there, we talk about tourism. We talk about business, but I think if we can be specific around tourism, I think we can be specific around other areas of economic development, not just small business, but looking at the distribution of businesses across the municipality so that we can create more economic hubs and bring economic development to different regions of the municipality. So that that would be my comment on this, on these sections.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Lovelace.
Thank you so much. Wendy, this was great to see some of the changes in here. I'm actually going to follow along what Councillor Cuddle just pointed out. And I think, you know, while I completely agree that we need to have distribution of wealth and ensuring that businesses are not, you know, only supported in the downtown core and able to survive in high traffic areas, but obviously in order to build a rural economy and support the tourism initiatives that small businesses and family businesses are developing. I'm wondering if we need to look at the concept of sustainability within growth. And so not only are we trying to maximize growth, we're trying to maximize sustainable growth throughout the entire region. And recognizing, you know, the equity that's involved in programming and in programming, and also in, you know, the availability of resources, for example. In thinking about the holistic planning, I'd like you to consider comprehensive integrated planning. While integrated planning is extremely important, comprehensive integrated planning forces us to think outside the box and look at not only the tools that are currently available to us, but potentially expand on the capacity that is available to us. And so the proposed word change, you know, the supported, strengthened, empowered, I do think along the lines of, you know, looking at community as our partner. In the ways that we can work with them to build and increase the capacity that we have, in particular in rural areas, to include, you know, opportunities to create sustainable growth there. I think that's all that I have. I wonder if I've made myself clear. Wendy, do you have any questions about what I've just said?
I understand the addition of comprehensive. How are you suggesting, I think, to both you and Councillor Cuddle's point around regional growth? Are you recommending that regional growth be emphasized under the economic growth priority area?
I would like to see rural growth emphasized because in order for our communities to grow effectively, to be able to have the amenities that they need, such as transit in those areas, we do need to be able to support the small businesses that are growing there. And in particular, you know, during this, well, of course, we're not in that post-COVID time yet, but during the post-COVID recovery time, we need to ensure that we do everything that we can to bring those businesses back, to bring the economy back in the rural areas, and to grow it in a sustainable way, so that that they have the resources available to them in order to advance that economy in the rural area.
Would it be all right if I commented,
Oh, yes.
Wendy,
Surely.
to that? That'd be okay. Yeah, I think the other piece of that is really looking at local economies and how they service and support our regional economies. Oh, sorry, it's Councillor Cuddle.
Oh, okay. Can we just follow the list, please? I'll come back to you, Councillor.
Absolutely.
We'll come back there. See you on the list. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Agree with a lot of the points I'm hearing so far, though I would hesitate to differentiate a whole lot between urban and rural when it comes to economic development. We want to see all of our business survive and thrive and grow. And we recognize that what's needed in downtown is different than what's needed in Burnside, from what's needed in the Bedford Innovation District to what's needed in Musquedocket Harbor. I do, however, though, disagree with staff about the affordable, not including affordable housing as a priority area. In January 30th, 2018, Council did vote to take effectively any and all steps to be involved and engaged and if possible, return to delivering affordable housing. And so I would propose, and I'm not sure how we're going to do this, and I turn to you, Mr. Mayor, I put it in the chat, that we take the language modified from, and I know, and Wendy, I want to say, first of all, before I get into the specifics, that I, as an author and writer myself, I love the symmetry of having 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, and 3 points. So I regret what I'm about to propose, and I'm sorry. But I think that under communities, we should add affordable communities as a specific goal, and with the words demonstrating leadership and fostering partnerships to provide access to a full range of quality, affordable housing options in safe and vibrant neighborhoods. And that's a slight reworking of the language that we had in our previous goals. So I think it's that important, and I think we need to say to the federal and provincial governments that we're taking it that seriously, that it's going to be one of our top priorities. Certainly what I've heard from talking to both new and returning council members is this is a lot of what we heard more than anything on the doorsteps from during the last election. So I don't think we can do anything but recognize that in this document. So I'm not sure what the process is, though. Do I make a motion, or do I just say I'd like it? Like, what are we going to do right now? We've heard from staff that they think that we should, that this. What do we do?
Well, I lost you at the end there, but I think, Wendy, you're taking notes at this point, and seeking consensus on issues. This is not going to be finalized today necessarily. It can come back again.
I had hoped to achieve consensus today. In deferring this, it will potentially affect the entire schedule, and as long as we're in agreement with that, that's absolutely fine. I can come back with revisions again for council's approval, or we could take these as motions and resolve them today. This gets up to council's will.
Well, Jacques or Jane, if I could get feedback from you guys on that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, certainly as we've said, this is not the final cut. If there is consensus that we would like to add another outcome area, we certainly can. There will be an awful lot of detail under each individual outcome area when we come back on the 12th. But if it's the wish of council to have that broken out to be more specific, we can certainly add that and then realign the various initiatives under that outcome area.
So with that in mind, I refer back to my grade 10 Model United Nations days, and perhaps, Mayor, you could ask if there was consensus to direct staff to add this rather than go to a more formalized vote. If there's any objections, we could go to a vote, but I suspect there won't be.
I don't want to get into tons and tons of votes, so I think that's a key point that I noticed when you were doing your presentation. The reason that affordable housing wasn't mentioned was largely jurisdictional and everything else, but we all feel that we have a big role to play. So is everybody generally in consensus with what Councillor Mason is speaking to here?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that's good enough for me. Wendy, you okay with that?
I'm absolutely fine. Yes.
Again, I regret what I've done to your symmetry, but it had to be done. I'm sorry, Wendy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Digglegan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In terms of the earlier conversation around the urban and the rural, I just wondered if in the header description box where it says a growing economy positions Halifax, a lot of people see Halifax as the city. And if we put Halifax Regional Municipality, then it is more inclusive.
I think our legal name is the Halifax Regional Municipality, so.
Or we could just use the word municipality.
Yeah, municipality is fine, I think. Kathy? Councillor?
That's great.
I don't see anybody else buzzing in for the first time. Councillor Cuddle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and apologies for butting in before. I was just trying to respond to Wendy's comment there around clarification. This back to the prosperous economy piece. The kind of local economies that I'm talking about, they also service and support our communities throughout the region. And, I know at least in District 11, there's lots of discussion around bringing back more local economies. So there's been a decline in commercial activity in our rural areas. But as things continue to grow and develop, I think we need to refocus efforts on that. Not only do they serve kind of the tourism piece and growing our tax base and economic development, they also actually provide needed services and opportunities for our communities. So, somehow including that local economy piece is really important, I believe, throughout the municipality. Thank you.
Wendy, any thoughts on that?
There are two places we could recognize local economy. We could recognize that within the aspirational goal statement. A prosperous and welcoming and growing economy positions Halifax as a business and tourism destination of choice with economic and local opportunities for all. Or we could address it directly in economic growth priority outcome statement. Economic opportunities are seized to promote and maximize growth for urban and local business, to reduce barriers for all business and showcase the region's strengths to the world. Suggestion.
Councillor Cuddle?
Yeah, group wordsmithing on the spot is never an easy thing to do. I'm not sure that captures the essence of what I'm speaking to strongly enough. And in particular, when we look at tourism destination of choice, tourists, they come to kind of see what's local, right? Like that is one of the key pieces of being an authentic, unique place. And so commercial development for tourism, I think that can be misconstrued. And again, I think we need to be a little bit more strategic and thoughtful about how we make that happen. So I have to think about that one a little bit. I don't think I can just wordsmith that right now on the spot, but I feel it's missing.
Perhaps, Mr. Mayor, if I could make a comment here, with your permission.
Please.
I think we can take that away. I think perhaps we could, I could ask Wendy to have a conversation offline with Councillor Cuddle and come up with the proper wording, and we can work that back into the on the next turn of it. Would that help?
That would work for me.
Okay. Just going to say a little bit here. I think we all want to support our local economies. It's hugely important. I don't want to be seen as not wanting to bring other businesses here as well that hire thousands of Haligonians as well. So I think we all want to support the local economy, and some of those larger companies support the local economy very well as well. So, but if there's a way to spruce up the importance of local, then I think I'd be for that. Councillor Cuddle, anything else?
We can probably achieve both.
Yeah, I don't think mentioning local is at the exclusion of those larger businesses, Mr. Mayor. But I do think that when you read the tourism strategy itself, it really does emphasize local, authentic, unique. And so having the economic goals align and support that more clearly and more well defined, I think would be a benefit in that regard without detracting from those larger businesses that you speak about.
Well, if we're talking specifically tourism, I agree 100%. If we're talking prosperous economy overall, we've benefited a great deal from some large companies coming to Halifax to hire our people and export their products, which is helpful. But on the tourism side, 100%.
Yeah, and not just the tourism side, but also really recognizing that these small businesses also really support our rural economies.
Okay, Wendy?
I'm fine. I'll work
Thank
with
you.
Council Cutter.
Is there anybody else that wishes in this one? There's a lot to chat. I don't think it's request to speak. Okay. Thank you, folks. Wendy, do you want to carry on?
Okay. If you could bring up the presentation again, we'll move on to the community's priority area. Okay, so we have a full discussion regarding homelessness as a potential pending crisis with both social and economic implications. Of course, it's related to the concept of affordable housing, but it's also a complex societal issue with underlying issues such as mental health, addiction, poverty that contribute to homelessness. There are a number of strategic initiatives that encompass homelessness, however, not one that currently directs that effort. The community's priority area is suggesting that this may be included as a strategic initiative under the community's priority area. But after our discussion, after Councillor Way's request for a priority area on affordable communities, perhaps homelessness should exist under this strategic priority outcome area, and we can discuss. So there are today a number of initiatives, a strategic initiative focused on homelessness, the social policy strategy, which has 3 focus areas: affordable housing, food security, and connected communities. Government relations and external affairs will work to build internal capacity across all business units, along with the identification of partnerships to enhance collaboration within focus areas to serve vulnerable communities. And the existing Navigator program, which is delivered through the BIDs today, the Business Improvement Districts. Navigators help connect street-involved individuals with services that they require. Work is currently underway to propose a new model that will ensure the program is sustainable and reflects the needs of the community. With respect to food security, it continues to be an important issue for this council and is addressed through the Inclusive Communities priority outcome. The initiative of strategic initiative that is called Addressing Food Insecurity will support that is supported by HRM social policy. The municipality will implement and continue to support a variety of food programs and community partnerships, including exploring the development of a Halifax Food Action Plan in partnership with Halifax Food Policy Alliance and community partners. Additional programs will include the continuation of the mobile food market, the Just Food Plan, the creation of infrastructure, including kitchen space at the William Spry and Halifax North Libraries, support for community gardens, the Bayers Road Urban Farm, and support for various other programs and organizations, including Square Root and Hope Balloons. And finally, with respect to mental health, this is a difficult one because it is so broad. HRM does not have a mental health mandate, but so much of what we do as a municipality has an impact and is inherent in the services we deliver. The social policy work, public safety strategy, HRP review, recreation programming, parks, etc., all have strategies related to or that contribute to improved mental health. It will be the work of the social policy team within HRM to ensure that the mental health lens is applied to the way we deliver services that engage the public. Next slide, please. There were some word changes requested here. While the goal statement of safer and more inclusive was intended to speak to all demographic considerations, the notion of age-friendly has been added to the aspirational goal statement for your consideration. We also heard from Council that engaged communities, the second strategic priority outcome area there, did not go far enough and needed to be changed to better illustrate moving beyond communication to activism. So we've changed engaged to involved here for your consideration. And with that, I'll leave that to your discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I see, I don't see any, Councilor Cuddle?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wendy, you know, I love a good strategic plan, so I really did do a deep dive into this one, and I think it's so great that we have everything down here to comment on. And so this is, you know, I think it's just a sign of actually really great work that we're at this point. The Evolve Communities piece, I think I already spoke to that it was about supported, strengthened, and empowered communities are somehow including in that line something about, it's not just participating, like involved in their communities and participating through leisure learning, but actually seeing communities as partners, our partners in making things happen, whether it's through those community organizations and groups, or you know, individuals getting involved in local initiatives, communities, groups. I don't know if, you know, I'm thinking it fits in that line, but they bring so much to our municipality, and I think we need to strengthen those relationships. You know, I've been speaking to some community organizations, and they say when, you know, working with other levels of government, whether it's, you know, the province or the feds, they're often brought in as partners. There's even, you know, joint news press releases on initiatives that they've collaborated on. So it's that level of collaboration that I would really like to see HRM strive to do more of, and seeing community groups not just as advocates, but really as those partners. The other question I have is just, I'm not sure, like when you talk about on the previous slide, you have communities and you talk about homelessness, food security, and mental health. And then we look at the proposed council priority under communities, and I don't see any of those words in here. I'm just wondering, you know, from a strategic planning document, how do those two pieces fit together? Like how, you know, we have the kind of those three initiatives on the one page, and then we have the priority outcomes on the other.
With respect to homelessness, it would be, right now, it's encompassed under the social policy strategic initiative. So what you're looking at is the framework right now. There's going to be a lot of strategic initiatives developed in the furtherance of the outcomes that we aspire to. So homelessness is now under the inclusive communities priority area, under the social policy strategic initiative. As I mentioned, homelessness is not addressed specifically under the social policy strategic initiative right now. And the community's priority areas believe that they can add that to bring it out more as an initiative that the policy team is working on. So that can be incorporated into the strategic initiative. With respect to food security, that strategic initiative that I spoke to, called Addressing Food Security, and all those initiatives are also included under the Inclusive Communities Priority Outcome. And that will appear when you see the document on January 12th. You'll see all of the strategic initiatives that will cover 4 years of planning. So they'll all have deliverables that will roll out over 4 years in furtherance of this outcome. What we're working today is basically on a framework. It's hard to capture all the language, but certainly you can feel secure that in terms of strategic initiatives, that is captured within your mandate. Mental health specifically is not included as a strategic initiative because it really is outside of the mandate. However, it is included in organizationally, we're all trained on applying the mental health land in terms of our planning. But it's also incorporated into our practice. It will be the work of the social policy team at HRM to assure that lens is now applied, just like diversity inclusion, to the way we deliver our services and offer our programs.
Okay, thank you. I think I understand a bit better. And my last comment on this one would be age-friendly. And I think what was said last time was really about all ages. Like, how do we build a city that embraces all ages, from children to our elderly residents, as, you know, kind of a lens through which we look at everything we do. Age-friendly, I don't know if that encapsulates that idea strongly enough, because I'm not sure what age friendly means.
I guess inclusive is a catch-all phrase. I can work to incorporate the notion of all ages. It was intended under age friendly, but
yeah, I think that would be great, because I think, you know, one of the things we'd love to see more, and what I heard loud and clear from the last conversation we had, was like, you know, really looking at making communities safe and welcoming for children, for the elderly, you know, but people felt that everyone felt like they belonged. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Deagle again. I think you're on mute, Councillor.
Sorry about that. Back. So actually, I really enjoyed strategic planning very much as well, and this was just such a pleasure to read. It really, really was. One of the things I'm wondering about in inclusive communities is just the absence, and it might go a little bit to Councillor Cuddle's conversation around partners, but the whole idea of volunteerism, it does seem that our volunteer community fills the gap sometimes and is supported by all levels of government when we want to think about inclusive, holistic, engaged communities. And this as a foundational document is amazing. And I know that when I went through some of the strategic objectives that we see that, but as a foundational document, if there's a place that the beautiful wordsmith person that you are, the respect for volunteerism could be in inclusive communities would be fantastic. Thank you. That's it.
Okay.
I'll just would you see that more under involved or inclusive? So right now we have residents are actively involved in their communities and enjoying participation in a wide range of benefits, or volunteerism usually is associated with involvement. But how do you see it extending to inclusion?
When I look at it, I think involved communities, it's, you know, how you participate, learning your social rec. Absolutely. When I think about inclusive communities, it's about foster the greater well-being by removing systemic barriers. And really, in a lot of ways, that's what the volunteer groups and organizations do in our communities. They empower people. They make things more accessible, either financially or physically, or so in all of those ways, volunteerism and those organizations help people to get past barriers. And so that's why I saw them in inclusive communities, but I do understand how it could be in both.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lovelace.
Thank you. This is wonderful. I think it was my comment last time that led to age friendly, because I was thinking of the Public Health Agency of Canada and the World Health Organization and Halifax's involvement in Age Friendly Cities project, which I've actually put the link in the chat there. And while I understand that all ages could potentially work, I just want to make sure that we include that entire life spectrum of babies to seniors, so that we are addressing the barriers that exist for the very young and for the older generation, as well as recognizing the accessibility factor for those with disabilities, creating play structures for accessible play structures for children, for example, making sure that seniors can walk within the community and that kind of thing. So, I'm fine with all ages, age friendly, what have you. I do think that I just want to, I want to wholeheartedly agree with Kathy's comment in regards to volunteerism. The city could not do all that it does without the volunteer hours and the resources. And certainly they do address a lot of barriers that we as a municipality cannot address. So whether it's transit, food insecurity, etc. So I do agree that that should be highlighted within inclusive communities. Going back to what Councillor Cuddle said about involved communities and, this terminology regarding enjoying the participation of, of programs and projects and so on within our community, and the role that individuals and communities play in growing those localized economies and those localized projects, whether it's daycares, for example, or providing activities for seniors and so on. I really do think that involved communities mean that our community members are actively stewards of that community. And so I wonder if there's an opportunity for us to think about not only residents actively involved in their communities and enjoying participating in activities, but they are partners in the stewardship of those communities. So I just wanted to throw that out as a concept to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cuddle had suggested all ages and abilities, and Councillor Mason is, that's a term we've used in the city before, and that's one that incorporates a lot of citizens.
And I think, yeah, and I think that would work. And also just to make sure that each of these items include the term municipality and not Halifax. So the municipality boasts strong social equity. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Wendy.
Is Wendy on mute?
Yeah, I think you're on mute, Wendy.
Sorry. With respect to pedestrian safety and traffic calming, safe roads and sidewalks under the integrated mobility priority area, I'm going to address it together. Pedestrian safety remains an imperative for regional council as well as the administration. And although it has been merged with the Safe Accessible Mobility Network, it continues to be managed as a strategic risk for the organization with an active risk plan. KPIs for pedestrian motor vehicle collisions, sidewalk and pavement indices will still continue to be reported annually through the strategic planning process as work continues through improving the safety measures. Staff has been directed to implement the road safety strategy with the goal of reducing fatality and injury-related collisions by 20% by 2023. Transportation and Public Works is executing on the administrative order on traffic calming. How much work is undertaken to reduce speeding and improve these safety outcomes is associated with us, and that is associated with safe roads and sidewalks is largely a budgetary issue. Suburban and rural transit corridors. We heard from some councillors concerns about meeting the transit needs for suburban and rural communities through the notion of expanded transportation corridors. Corridor routes do serve suburban communities, and bus rapid transit corridors are planned to do so as well. For rural transit, the Rural Transit Funding Program has led to increased mobility options over the past few years. But the regional plan review is really the starting point for a revisit to the current transit approach. If you go to the next slide, please. There were no language changes or additions to integrated mobility council priority outcome from council at the last meeting. So I'll leave it now for conversation, feedback.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor, and Wendy, thank you for this. At the last time when we brought this up last time, I did certainly speak to the fact that I thought we needed to specify a little bit more. And this ties into the discussion that we've had today about the regional plan and about smarter and better growth. And I think Councillor Cuddles touched on this, and Lovelace, and we had quite a discussion about this the other night when the two community councils met. We want development to look different going forward than it does now. And one way is to doing that is to tie it in with transportation. So while we're talking about the urban and rural corridors, I think specifically we need to, I'm not sure exactly where we put this, but we need to make sure that the unanimously passed concepts, if you will, of rapid transit, which includes the ferries, which includes bus rapid transit. I don't know that we specifically talked about moving forward together, and of course the whole Bedford Highway Functional Plan. Where do we need to make sure that these are included, because they are going to have huge impacts on the regional plan review over the next 2 years of where we allow development, but also the amount of development or the density of it. The days of, and I'm sure everybody who ran for council in districts 10 and 13, 14, 15, 1, 16, all heard that we are tired of having to buy the second or the third or the fourth car because transit isn't good enough. We're spending longer commuting here now than we did, as long or longer than when we came here from Alberta or BC and Ontario. I'm hearing those things, and I'm sure others have. And we want to make sure that we are not going to, trust us, we're going to build another community, trust us, the ferry will come, or the train will come, or the bus will come, or the road improvements will come. It has to be tied now to our growth strategy. So, and I think most councils on the table would agree to that, particularly those who've been banging on doors, hearing those concerns from people. So, Wendy, how do we ensure that these concept plans that have been approved are linked both in with transportation, but also with how we plan to grow and how we plan to, a lens that we plan to put on the regional plan review? So help me make sure that these are there in black and white.
Okay, I think I'm going to defer this one to Kelly Denty, because if you were talking about a very integrated planning approach, I think it's best you hear from the Director of Planning and Development on this one.
That'll work too.
Hi, Kelly.
Oh, I can't hear her.
Can't hear you there.
We've got Albert and the Chipmunks working in development.
What I caught is that she will come back.
Okay. I saw Tanya there too. I don't know if Tanya might be able to help us, Mike.
Ms. Davis, are you there?
I am, Mr. Mayor.
Do you want to take that one?
Well, I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of Kelly, but if you'd like me to take a stab from an integrated mobility perspective, I can.
Sure.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to the Deputy Mayor, Tanya Davis, Strategic Transportation Planning. So since the last regional plan, Council has unanimously passed the Integrated Mobility Plan, which is our first land use and transportation master plan. We didn't have that at the last regional plan development, so that plan will get integrated into the regional plan as we start to rewrite that. The other thing that we have been doing, so Council has also adopted the rapid transit strategy, which builds on the integrated mobility plans, pillars and direction. The other thing that we've been doing is integrating into our capital budget the multimodal corridors, strategic corridors. So like the Bedford Highway, we've been getting out and doing functional plans on Herring Cove and Portland Street and those ones. So all of that will come together to play a part in how we direct development and transportation funds.
Thank you.
So,
Kelly has
so
something else.
Kelly's back. Let's see if Kelly wants to speak to it.
okay, so.
It's
Kelly?
Christmas. Am I still Alvin?
No, you're good.
Okay, good.
Wants
Thank
a
you.
hula hoop.
Yeah, well, we're not going to do that. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Caught most of what Tanya said, I think. But yeah, I mean, obviously, the regional plan is our strategic planning document. So everything we do has to be in line with that. We've kind of had those conversations with these priority outcome area discussions. Like, where do you fit IMP? Where do you fit regional plan? They're all there. They're all council adopted. Everything we do has to integrate that. So in terms of the regional plan review, it is to take those pieces in the IMP that don't necessarily speak well or as clear as they could be in the regional plan and fold those in, right? So I guess what I would say is, you know, it's part of the deliverable. It's part of what the work we're going to do with updating the regional plan to make sure that those concepts that are in the IMP are actually applied in law in the official plan, which becomes the regional plan. So hopefully that helps provide you with some assurance. It's all about strategic planning and integration.
So just for absolute clarification, to me, the integrated mobility plan, which I unanimously, council unanimously supported, myself included, is fabulous. Is the moving forward together plan, the Bedford Highway functional plan, and the rapid transit plans for BRT and rail. And sorry, all habits die hard. Ferry. They are now considered as integral parts of the integrated mobility plan?
They would flow from the integrated mobility plan. I would suggest that the moving forward together plan is more operational, but obviously the strategic directions that come from IMP and then ultimately through the regional plan will inform that as it changes, because I would suspect that moving forward together plan will change over time as communities grow and change. But yes, they are integrated. They all work together and under that umbrella of the regional plan as to where and how we grow.
And transportation in general, Kelly, will now be a more significant lens as we review the regional plan?
Land use and transportation are intrinsically connected, and that's why both of those pieces actually are in planning and development, right? Regional plan and transportation planning. So you can't have one without the other. So definitely.
All right, that's all very encouraging, and I thank all of you.
Thank you, Councillor Morse.
I just wanted to say I share Deputy Mayor Othit's concerns that he mentioned there about density and tying development to our transportation corridors and bus rapid transit and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to add that I think it makes incredible sense to be working on increasing density around the investments that we're going to be making in bus rapid transit and other integrated mobility items. But I just think we have to, as part of the strategy, keep in mind how we can make that density livable for people and how we can include affordable options, how we can have better integration with infrastructure like schools. I know it's all a tall order, but if it's just density around transportation hubs, then we're going to get a lot of backlash, I think, from communities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cuttle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this is, I just want to say on this piece around the integrated mobility that pedestrian safety and traffic calming was huge. It's something I heard a lot about throughout District 11, and I know many of the other councillors have mentioned it as well. So pulling that out as a specific initiative, I think is really great to see and really important, and that a lot of our residents will be happy to see that along with the safe roads and sidewalks. For the suburban and rural transit corridors, I'm wondering, you know, my familiarity with the integrated mobility plan has mostly been in the kind of urban center. And and the BRT. I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the rural transit corridors and really what those are about. And I know you spoke to connecting land use to transit, but that's also where I think we need to focus our economic, some of that local economic development initiatives need to get tied into that, as well as community and environment, as Councillor Morris was saying, around, parks and access to nature. One thing that really came out in COVID was that, not everybody could go walk from their house to a park or to some green spaces outside. That, there was inequity around access from our neighborhoods to the outdoors. So, I know, as planners, there's many of you there on the call today that, we kind of understand that, but to boldly state that in our priorities, I think sends a clear message to the people of Halifax that, this is our goal and what we hope to achieve. But yeah, if we could just speak a little bit about the rural transit piece, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
I see Dave Riggi has joined us. Dave, did you want to take that one?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dave Riggi, Executive Director, Halifax Transit. Through you to Council. So, in terms of rural transit, the approach that's supported by the regional plan and our current approach to it really is around a combination of express buses coming in from rural park and ride lots. And then having community-based services through a rural transit funding program. So that at this point in time is, that's what's in the regional plan. That's what's supported by regional plan policy, and that is our approach. Now, building on what Ms. Lyons had said in her presentation, should there be a wish of council to change that approach? Certainly, I think the starting point for that is the next regional plan review. And that's, if there was a desire to change policy around how we approach rural transit, that would be the next step in that.
Councillor Cuddle?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kent?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to touch back on the traffic calming. It is great to see that it has been highlighted as a priority. I just what helps me understand the depth of which it goes from here, and I'm just going to piggyback on some of what Councillor Cuddle had mentioned, which is, throughout recent months of door-to-door and connections with the engagement with our citizens, beyond a shadow of a doubt, traffic safety, traffic risk to communities, risk to walkers, and in so many streets, it's epidemic actually, and I've never seen it in my 10 years in political work so far. I have never seen it as bad as it is now. And so, and I've mentioned this before, Council will be surprised to hear me talk of what I believe is a flaw, or maybe it's time for it to be reshifted around the framework of a waiting list for traffic calming. I realize as well that some of the traffic calming has been put on hold at this point, but so have traffic reviews. And so what I'm feeling and hearing is that this is around not even having a will or capacity at this stage to even review any of these streets. And I know that what started that within the confines of COVID-19, but what I want to know is within this priority, there is a framework, there are policies right now that dictate how we review, when we review, how we traffic calm, et cetera, et cetera. And the list is ridiculously long and a ridiculously longer wait to actually get any effort on the local level in the local streets. Is at what point, and does this approval of our priorities now, does that lock that in, or do we still have a chance to adjust or manipulate so that we can approach these streets that right now are difficult for residents? They're risky, it's unsafe, and I just want to make sure I know when is the right time. I don't want to sort of buy into something that then locks us into that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not sure if Brad Anglish, the Director of Transportation and Public Works, is on the line. Take that specific discussion with respect to the priorities on pent-up demand. I don't think he is. I don't see him in the list. Tanya, are you able to take that at all?
Hi there.
Yeah, sorry, I'll let Tanya speak and I'll speak after. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, there is, we do have the administrative order for traffic calming that was approved by council. We also have our roads safety plan that has a short-term goal of reducing collisions and fatalities by 2023. So we are working through that, but as Wendy indicated, a lot of the traffic calming, that long list is related to budgetary constraints, and we have a lot of work to do within the right-of-way, and trying to manage through spending on a whole lot of different initiatives.
Jacques?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Brad and I have had a conversation about this recently, and I've had a conversation with many of you actually in our one-on-ones on this issue. So this may not come as a surprise to some of you. So there's no doubt that, as Tanya has pointed out, not much of this is budgetary, but also we've set out some unrealistic expectations in terms of what we can do by when. So the approach that we're going to be taking, Brad is going to be working on with you as individual councillors by district, is to identify the priority areas, priority streets in your district, and take a look at those. And look, the INP and moving forward together plan and all these major strategies are all important, but they cannot be necessarily the be all and end all. You as councillors understand where your pressure points are in terms of your streets, where you're getting the most complaints. So let's put a screen on that. Let's have a conversation with each individual councillor, and then we'll be bringing back a plan that we can actually operate, that's operable and fundable over the next 3 to 4 years. So laying out what you can expect over the next 3 or 4 years by district effectively, right? Because not everything's important, not everything is urgent, and not everything's urgent and important when it comes to traffic calming. So my advice to you is let's work together as a team, led with Mr. Anguish, with you individually, and these conversations will continue through the Transportation Standing Committee as well as we move the conversation and budgets forward.
Thank you, Jacques. Councillor Kent?
Great, thank you, Jacques. It's we did get a chance to talk about this. This is encouraging. I just wanted to make sure that, again, that one doesn't necessarily challenge or stop the other. So this is great news. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hensby.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. In regards to the discussion on the transit and corridors and stuff, I want to stress once again the 2008 plan for Metro X. We've almost fulfilled the plan according to Highway 102, 103, and the 104 highways. But the 101, sorry, 101, 102, 103, but not the 107. We only have one terminal in Porter's Lake. There's proposals for one in Mineville. There should be one in Westfall, Lake Major at Ross Road intersection. And there should be one in Muscatauga Harbor, but we put the kibosh on developing our transit any further. But we still have a capacity to do the one in Mineville, exit 18, and do the one in Westfall, Lake Major, Ross Road, because it's within the serviceable boundary. We're not expanding the territory. We're just utilizing and filling the gaps within. So I would hope that we would look at that as a possibility of fulfilling some of the hope that was planted in 2008. So like I say, is I want that back on the drawing board.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lovelace.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I'm going to just raise the issue of the elephant in the room. With regards to safe and accessible integrated mobility network, we are only speaking about the roads that we control. We control the HRM roads. We do not control those that are managed by the province. So in a situation I'm in right now where I'm trying to get speed rate reduced on Peggy's Cove Road, the assessment by the province is based on the speed of the vehicles. It's based on the number of collisions on the road, and there is absolutely no measurement on pedestrian safety. And so while we at HRM are looking at safe and accessible roadways, though it needs to be clarified that we do not have the ability to influence the province and tell them that they need to make pedestrian safety a priority. So from an expectation perspective for residents and businesses, I think it's paramount that we ensure that there is a clarification on our jurisdiction within this integrated mobility, because it really is quite disappointing that we do not have the authority over those roadways. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And that goes for snow clearing as well.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Wendy, I think that's it on that one. Do you want to move ahead? Where are we at in terms of timing here? Why don't you just do the opening and we'll see if there's any questions. If there's questions, we'll have to go till after lunch, but go ahead on environment if you wish.
Okay. Wait for the presentation. Okay, with respect to the council priority of environment, we heard from you on electrification. There was a question related to that and what our strategy is. HRM is currently developing an electrical vehicle strategy. The strategy falls under 2 strategic outcomes: decarbonized transportation. So Halifax will implement an electric vehicle strategy. It's slated for January 2021 to be presented to Regional Council. This includes considerations for public charging infrastructure, chargers at municipal facilities, and converting municipal fleet to electric vehicles, and will require key partnerships for funding and incentives. There's also another strategic priority outcome called decarbonized public transit. So Halifax Transit will initiate the conversation to form a fully diesel-powered fleet to zero-emission buses. This initially included the procurement of electric buses and charging infrastructure, trans-facility renovations to accommodate electric buses, planning and routing considerations for electric buses, staff training, and public engagement. We also heard an endorsement for the Halifax plan and strategy, and the requirement for integration with that strategy and the IMP because of their interconnectedness. And then moving on to the next slide. There were no language changes or additions requested to this priority area. So to your discussion.
I don't see anything in the chat line, Wendy. Oh. Sorry, there, Councillor Lovelace.
Yes, thank you. I do have a comment on this. Wendy, I'm wondering if you can speak to coastal communities. While I understand that we're talking about climate resilience, communities, infrastructure, natural systems, etc., but with sea level changes, we do have a concern here in District 13, and likely in District 3 as well, and 11 in regards to sea level rise. So I just want to ensure that we are looking forward and securing whatever infrastructure or monies from federal government need to be brought into to address those coastal communities. In addition to that, I want to make sure that while we're talking about Halifax, we're also talking about the Green Work Plan as well, and thinking about the wildlife corridors in particular, and ensuring that within the development of that, those forthcoming documents, that we consider all of those items. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So climate, the priority, strategic priority outcome of climate resilience speaks to infrastructure, and I believe coastal infrastructure is included in that. But I think the expert, Shannon Niedema, is online, and I'm going to get her to speak specifically to Halifax 2050 to address some of the questions.
Hi, everyone. Shannon Miedema, Manager of Energy and Environment. It's nice to see everybody. Yes, Councillor, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Councillor, we have a whole series of strategic initiatives under the Environment Outcome Area, and one is specifically focused on flood risk management, coastal risk management. We have a green infrastructure piece, so we actually have about 12 or 15 specific initiatives under that kind of align with these three overarching pieces. And we're very much aware of the Coastal Protection Act that the province has put forward, and we're waiting on the regulations to come through because we'll be kind of co-implementing those. And we're also looking at doing risk and vulnerability assessments of critical infrastructure, including in coastal areas. And we're working with the regional planning team on potentially adding in some new layers of protection for coastal areas as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Shannon. It's nice to meet you.
You as well.
Thank you, Councillor Morse.
Hi, I'm just wondering how food might fit in under this category, because we have a municipality with a strong rural communities, and just wondering if you could comment on that, please.
Mr. Mayor, through you to the councillor, we kind of support all of the ongoing initiatives on food security. We know that the regional planning team is really focused on it. We know the city is a member of the Halifax Food Policy Alliance, and there's a lot of overlap with climate risk and food security. So we've been working with Erica Fleck on better preparing our communities for emergencies. We've actually consulted them on what they need to be better prepared, and we are looking at spending some of our climate change money in some different ways, partnering with Erica on that. That is also included as language in one of the strategic initiatives.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Shannon. Councillor Stoddard, a question?
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering, as far as environment, what protection of our natural trails and green space plays a part in this plan? Especially for District 12, we have Blue Mountain and Birch Cove, and it is an important piece to the environment as other trails are, and I'm just wondering what your take on that would be, please.
Shannon, you want that one?
Yes, please. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. Yes, we work closely with Parks and Recreation as well, and we've highlighted kind of the synergies between some of the focus areas in the community outcome area with the environment outcome area, because they have things like acquiring parkland, and we stress that that's critical for alignment with the Green Network Plan, with the Urban Forest Master Plan, and that's what's critical for habitat protection and ecosystem health. So we come at it from a couple perspectives. So there's the whole community enjoyment and resilience piece. There's also flood risk management. There's also carbon sequestration. So there's all kinds of synergies. So we show alignment between those plans within this area as well.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Sutter. Okay. All right. See no other questions. So Wendy, where do we go from here? You're going to come back after lunch?
I will. There's just a couple of slides left in the presentation, and then I guess we can talk about how we move forward with a few of these requests. There's a couple of options there.
Yeah. So, Mr. Mayor, I had a question.
I'm not sure who's speaking, but Councillor Puddle had a question. Maybe we'll just try to take that before lunch.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, just to build on what Councillor Stoddard was saying around the proposed council priorities on the environment, I think it would be great if we could also see something in here about access to green spaces as kind of an overarching goal. We talk about leadership in climate action and environmental protection, but you know, I mentioned it with the integrated mobility piece, but maybe it belongs in here about you know, making sure that people have access to green spaces. We're planning for those green spaces throughout the municipality, doing an assessment and what more we're going to need as we continue to create, as we continue to grow and develop, and coming up with some kind of a model or some targets around that. It might fit underneath the bottom point of protected and sustainable environment there with enhanced quality of life. But just including that access as a key point. Thank you.
Thank you. Wendy, you got that one? Okay. All right, colleagues, let's take a break, come back at 1 o'clock and pick up with Wendy, and then we'll go into regional council. All right, 1 o'clock.